Greetings everyone, this is Mozart, and in today's video I'm going to talk about speed limits and the concept of average speed as a limit. Both of these topics might sound very trivial, but their importance cannot be underestimated. In India we have two types of speed limits: the general or blanket speed limit and the posted speed limit. Blanket speed limit is issued by the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Posted speed limit refers to speed signs which is issued by the State Transport Department. The difference between both of them is very simple. Any road or area that is not marked by a posted speed limit is automatically governed by the general speed limit. Now, the latest publication by MORTH in the Indian Gazette was back in April 2018, and according to that, motorcycles have a speed limit of 60 kilometers per hour on municipal roads and 80 kilometers per hour on 4-lane or higher carriageways. So basically that translates as 60 in the city and 80 on highways. These are the two important numbers for us, 60 and 80. Now, to emphasize the importance of speed limits, I want you guys to watch a 1-minute clip made by the Transport Accident Commission, which is a government-based insurance company located in Victoria, Australia. Here it goes.
Thursday afternoon in a 60 zone. This 34-year-old motorcyclist was on his way home. It's our job to work out why he never got there. The rider broke his neck on impact here, having crashed into this car that was turning right. By analysing the impact, we know he hit the car at 30 kilometres per hour. And these marks on the road tell us that he skidded for 21 metres, having braked hard here. When he first reacted, he was doing 68. But let's change one small thing. At 60, the driver would have had more chance to see him properly. He'd have stayed in control and reached this point a moment later. The car would have cleared his path and he'd be home by now. You decide on your speed. The physics decides whether you live or die.
As you saw, there were two scenarios. In the first scenario, the bike rider was riding at 68 kilometers per hour. In the second scenario, the bike rider was riding at 60 kilometers per hour. Both the scenarios, the speed limit was 60 kilometers per hour. Now, in the first scenario, when the bike rider noticed the car, he was already overspeeding by 8 kilometers per hour. As a result, he was carrying a lot more momentum. The distance between him and the car was decreasing rapidly. Because of this, he did not have enough time to think properly and execute a safe maneuver. Instead, he panicked. He visually locked onto the car, which is target fixation. He slammed the rear brake. The rear wheel locked up, and eventually the bike ended up colliding with the car. In the second scenario, when the rider noticed the car, he was riding at the speed limit, which was 60 kilometers per hour. Compared to the previous scenario, here he was carrying lesser momentum. The distance between him and the car was not reducing as fast, so he had a bit more time to think properly and execute a safe maneuver, which he did by swerving around the back of the car and thereby avoiding a collision. So the message behind this clip was very simple. If you ride at or below the speed limit, you will have a certain degree of control on the outcome of the situations around you. And like the person in the video said, you decide on your speed, physics decides whether you live or die. Now, in the comment section of the original video, a lot of people gave their own opinions without understanding the message behind that clip. Some people said if the bike rider was going faster, so instead of 68, if he was doing 75 or maybe 80, he would have crossed the intersection even before the car got there. Now that may or may not be true, because you see, that single car is not the only object on the road. There are other vehicles on the road. There are pedestrians. In India, we have stray animals on the road. There are potholes, speed breakers, so on and so forth. So overspeeding is really not in the best interest of anyone. Now, some people argued that it was the car driver's fault for suddenly pulling out onto the intersection without checking both ways. Now, once again, that may or may not be true, because if you check the clip once again, there was a pickup truck parked on the side of the road. And it is possible that the pickup truck created a blind spot for the car driver. And even if it was the car driver's fault, there's not much point in arguing if you are dead or fatally injured or severely disabled, right? So, as a bike rider, it is our responsibility to look out for ourselves, take preventive measures, and be extra careful while you're on the road. Accidents are called accidents because they can happen at any time, any place, and to anyone, even to the best of people. Now, I want you guys to watch one more clip made by TAC. This one is slightly different. It has a slightly different message, but it is equally important. Here it goes.
What you're about to see will change your mind about speeding. Two identical cars, one travelling at 60, the other at 65. A sudden change in the road ahead, and both drivers first react, and then, a moment later, they brake. And things start to get interesting. Down here, the difference is extraordinary. In the last 5 metres of braking, you wipe off half your speed. So this car is still doing 32 k's when it hits. This one also hits, but only at 5 k's. So no matter how good a driver you are, 5 k's difference up there makes 27 k's difference down here.
So as you saw, there were two cars. One was doing 65 kilometers per hour. The other one was doing 60 kilometers per hour. And both of them braked at the same point and at the same time, but both of them got into a collision with the truck. Now, for the sake of discussion, ignore the numbers, okay? Ignore the 65 and 60. Let's just say that one car was going faster, the other one was going relatively slower. So the car that was going faster, it sustained severe damage in the collision because it was carrying a lot more momentum. Now, compared to that, the car that was going slower, it also sustained damage. But the damage was not as severe because it was carrying lesser momentum. So the message behind that clip, once again, it was very simple. If you ride at or below the speed limit, there's no guarantee that you're 100% safe. But if you do get into an accident, if you do get into a collision, then the damage will not be as severe. You might escape with minor injuries or no injuries at all. And that's a good thing, isn't it? So that was regarding speed limits. Any of you who wasn't taking speed limits seriously up until now, I hope that from now on you will take it seriously. If not for your own sake, at least do it for other people's sake. Don't let other people pay for your mistakes. And to the riders who are already careful on the road, my advice to you is be extra careful, be extra vigilant, so that you don't become a victim of someone else's mistake. I have first-hand experience on this, not once but twice. So follow the speed limits, be careful, be safe. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the concept of average speed as a limit. This is something that I came up with for my own safety, but I wanted to share it with everyone else because I do strongly believe that it will be very beneficial for you guys once you start following it. Now, the average speed on a particular road is determined by its surrounding elements, such as traffic density, pedestrian density, presence of stray animals on the road, potholes, speed breakers, traffic signals, whether it's a residential area or a commercial area, so on and so forth. It also varies from one person to another person, from one time of day to another time of day. And most importantly, it is strongly dependent on whether or not you're following the traffic rules properly. Now, do keep one thing in mind, that legally, the average speed cannot exceed the speed limit. If it does, then it means you're breaking the speed limit. Now, if you are following the traffic rules properly, then as per my experience, following the average speed as a limit is much more safer than following the speed limit itself. I want you guys to take a minute and try to understand that. Now let me give you a few examples. This road has a speed limit of 60 kilometers per hour. But the average speed on this road is 40 kilometers per hour because of the traffic density, the pedestrian density, and it also happens to be a commercial area, right? Now, if you apply the concept on this road, you'll be able to ride safely, smoothly, and stress-free as long as you do not exceed 40 kilometers per hour, which is the average speed. So that's the basic idea behind this concept. You want to have a safe, smooth, and stress-free ride. Another example. The speed limit on this road is 50, as you can clearly see. But the average speed on this road is 50 as well. So this average speed matches with the speed limit. And that's because the traffic density and the pedestrian density on this road is very low throughout the day. So you can safely and smoothly go all the way up to 50 without any stress. So the question that arises is, how do you get to know the average speed on a particular road? You'll get to know that gradually as you travel frequently on that particular road. Now, this concept is the most useful when you apply it to your commuting route, because your commuting route will have multiple fixed roads and you'll be traveling on these roads on a daily basis. So it makes perfect sense to be able to ride smoothly, safely, and stress-free on these particular roads because you'll be riding on them on a daily basis, isn't it? Now, there's one more thing that you can try. It's a bit far-fetched, but it's still worth a try. You can create a network with your friends, colleagues, family members, relatives. You can explain this concept to them, and you can ask them to note down the average speeds and the speed limits of their commuting routes. That way, in the end, you can collect all the data from all the members of your network, and you can create an average speed map. Now, if you plan on traveling on a road that you have never traveled on before, but that particular road falls under someone else's commuting route, then you can check the map and see what their average speed was on that particular road, and you can then plan your ride accordingly. Now, the average speed map will be largely inconsistent unless you know for a fact that the people in your network are following the traffic rules properly. This is the single most important criteria. So that was regarding the concept of average speed as a limit. I hope that you guys understood that. And in the initial period, it will be a little bit difficult to follow it because it requires a lot of discipline and restraint. But gradually you will get accustomed to it. You know, it took me time as well, but it eventually worked out for me. Now, in conclusion, I want you guys to always keep one thing in mind. Whenever you leave your home, always remember that your family will be waiting for you to return safely and in one piece. That's all for now. As always, if you have any questions regarding today's topics, feel free to ask me in the comment section below, or you can message me on Facebook or Twitter. Links will be in the description. Until next time, take it easy.